Ethan wakes to the smell of damp carpet and the soft, steady tapping of rain against glass. He does not remember how long he has been awake, and he does not push to remember. Memory is a fragile thing here. It frays at the edges like the carpet, the soles of his shoes disturb as he pushes himself up from a cheap office chair. Fluorescent lights hum above him in a rhythm that has become a kind of lullaby, an electrical breath that steadies his chest. The bulbs are whole, their covers clean, but they give off only a pallid wash, not enough to banish the shadows that gather in the corners between rows of desks. The room around him is ordinary in the most precise way. Cubicles in neat rows, chairs pushed in, monitors dark and dustless. Carpet seams run like rivers between islands of laminate and wire trays. He moves through the corridor of desks with the slow, careful pace of someone who has learned that haste makes him miss details. The indentations in the carpeting tell stories. Rectangles where couches once sat, concentric rings where potted plants had drained into time. These small absences keep a kind of company. They are traces of lives that did not belong to him, but which he can use to imagine warmth. Outside the long, narrow windows, the sky is a curtain of steady rain. The water falls with a firmness that suggests practice rather than whim, a practiced weather that has no change of mood. Clouds do not move. The same sheet of cloud has been another's background for as long as anyone can say. Lightning comes sometimes, a slow, distant flaring that leaves no thunder, or, when thunder arrives, it is more like a complaint than a storm. For all the static certainty outside, there is something comforting in the rain. The sound of it is a metronome. It marks time in a place otherwise given to suspended motion. People have built lives here in small ways. Ethan finds a corridor with a cluster of cloth chairs and a table with a battered magazine rack. A hand-scrawled sign tacked to a corkboard reads, in a tidy but hurried script, "Need, batteries and coffee." Someone left a torn photograph beneath the sign. The edges are rounded from use. A face smiles in the picture for no longer than a second before the world swallows the context. He tucks the photograph into his jacket because small artifacts anchors him, give him a gravity to hold against the placelessness. Level 4 is merciful. It is one of the few places where the floors do not smell of iron or rot, where walls do not breathe, where things are allowed to be only as dangerous as the mundane. There are no creatures that watch from vents, no slow threats that wear stolen faces on the other side of a door. The quiet here is not emptiness, it is a kind of deliberate neutrality. He meets others occasionally in communal spaces. A woman who keeps a neat stack of paperback books on a window ledge, two men who trade stories about roots and the odd stare that once went somewhere, a teenager who writes signs in indigo ink and pins them to doors. They pass notes like contraband, found almonds X3, do not try West. Sometimes they sit together and make tea with water from the vending machines. Vending machines stand like polite sentinels at the ends of hallways. Their glass fronts clink quietly when someone takes a bottle. Ethan runs his hand over the cold metal of one and reads the faded labels. Almond water, which tastes like an idea of sweetness. A can that claims to be Greek fire. The label is tongue-in-cheek, the name half-legend, but people swear it warms bones in a strange and private way. Packets that contain dried comfort and straps of something that tastes of cinnamon and stale citrus. Food here is functional and ritual. Eating with others is a way to announce existence. A shared meal here is not merely about nutrition. It is a small, stubborn protest against the idea that they are alone. There is an architecture to this place that rewards linear movement. Rooms and corridors are laid out with an old office logic. Meeting rooms face one another, cubicles cluster under a common ceiling, stairwells sit like punctuation marks at the corners of the plan. A map of sorts exists in Ethan's head now, one he draws with his feet. He learns the rhythms of certain corridors. He discovers that noise travels like a living thing here. A whisper in a small office will arrive at the far end of a wing as if carried by a careful courier. An argument feels like a broadcast. That sensation makes him deliberate. He does not shout. Shouting sends echoes that refuse to settle. The rain that touches the windows is not just sound. It is a thin cloak that keeps the world outside from ever approaching. Sometimes mist creeps in through the seals and collects in little gray halos on the carpet. That humidity brings a chill that nips at the neck and makes him pull his collar higher. It is a steady kind of damp that lives in fabric and bone. Thermometers people have pinned to community boards show small variations, between 12 and 18 degrees Celsius, but these numbers are suggestions rather than commands. To Ethan's skin, the air feels like a hand. It is exacting but not cruel. Staircases are everywhere. They spiral like the cogs of a machine designed to keep people moving without letting them escape. They go up and they go down, and most of the time, they deliver him right back where he began. There is an odd hum of inevitability in them. On the first day he tried to follow a stair down. He expected a neat descent into some other promise. He walked, foot after foot, down 37 steps and found only a carpeted landing and a set of doors that opened onto the same corridor he had left. People joke about it. The stairs are polite, they say. They pretend to take you somewhere. But jokes mask unease. Some stairs, in rare and dangerous stories, do open onto other levels. Those tailies are whispered and flagged as exceptions. Ethan treats the stairs like a puzzle whose pieces sometimes refuse to stay put. Because there are no predators here, people enact rituals of normalcy. Someone organizes a shift system for the vending machine. Another keeps a ledger of hours when the lights seem brightest. Ethan volunteers to stand watch once a week in the main communal area, not because there is anything to guard against, but because the act of waiting is a small discipline. He reads other people's journals, thin booklets of lined paper that fold at the corners like familiar hands. The entries are often mundane: lists of supplies, sketches of routes, notes to a self about which door to avoid. In other entries, a voice sways into poetry, a description of rain that reads like a lover's letter. That mixture of the practical and the lyrical keeps the place human. He is not untouched by loneliness. Night in level 4 is not a dark that hides things. It is a quiet that shows absence. When buildings are empty, the mind begins to rearrange inhabitants until the building is populated again, in rumor and memory. Ethan lies awake sometimes on a narrow cot and thinks of faces he cannot place. He gives them names, temporary names like the woman on the 3rd floor who always writes with a blue pen, or the man with a laugh that sounds like a squeaky hinge. Nomming is a way to tether the ephemeral. He has found companionship in small exchanges: the neighbor who trades a battery for an almond water, the group who share a single candle on cold nights. These human economies are not grand, they are intimate. They teach him how to measure time by another person's breath. The window views in level 4 are deceptive. They show a horizon of still weather and arrested light, but the sightless sky is a lie that sits politely beyond the glass. Sometimes when he lingers at a windowsill, he sees things that might be real and things that might be illusions. A shadow that passes too quickly, a shape that halts just beyond a rain-soaked pane, then nothing. Other times he will find small offerings left on ledges: a smooth stone, a bottle cap painted with a tiny star. He cannot say who leaves them. The offerings are anonymous. They are the fingerprints of people who still insist on ceremony. Noise reaches him from other wings as well: low, distant rumbles that suggest a machine somewhere doing a work of its own. It is the same sound that finds its way through pipes and vents in other, less benign levels, but here it carries no threat. It is a background sound that hums like an old radio. That occasional mechanical rumble becomes a lullaby, an audible reminder that there is structure and order and a kind of scale to the place. It reassures in its regularity. He learns small precautions: open a desk drawer slowly, keep conversation short and clear in case it must be loud, cover vents with cloths if the draft is sharp. People hide private things in false bottoms of file cabinets and in hollowed-out manuals. There is a communal pantry where someone leaves a loaf with a note: share. In the pantry, a stack of mugs sits like an offering. Each mug has a name in permanent marker. He takes his turns washing them, drying them, and arranging them in a neat circle on the counter. small acts that have become talismans against the chaos. Ethan writes in a narrow journal with a blue pen. He writes the time, the position of the vending machine, a short note about the weather, and 3 small things he is grateful for. The gratitude list is an exercise he has learned from someone who used to keep a little garden of office plants in a conference room. Find the small things, the gardener wrote on a sticky note that Ethan pinned to his jacket. He started with the softness of a chair arm and the correct click of a chair wheel. Then he moved to gratitude for the almond water someone shared and for the way rain smells on the carpet. These are not grandeurs, they are survival. There are rumors of openings here, doors that smell differently, hallways that hum at a new pitch. People mark them with chalk so others can find them or avoid them. Ethan has a tendency to study those marks with a careful eye. One morning he crosses a threshold he has crossed a dozen times and notices the paint is a different shade, subtler, almost hungry. The corridor beyond smells faintly of copper and lemon, and that tiny change presses his attention until it is a physical thing. He realizes then that the level is not inert, it is patient. It holds possibility in reserve. He follows the corridor like a man following an old habit. The hum grows clearer, less like background noise and more like a voice resolving into language. A door appears, a simple steel door that looks as if it should be bolted to a storeroom. A strip of light leaks from the bottom edge in a way none of the other doors do. He pauses. He thinks of the stairs that led in circles, of the rules that mostly keep them safe. He thinks of the ledger of exceptions and the price those exceptions paid. He thinks of the way the rain pauses when the light tilts in a certain way, and of all the quiet small rituals that have made this place a refuge. He thinks, finally, of the people who have been brave enough to step through doors before him and whose notes fill the margins of community boards. Then he opens the door. The light on the other side is not the pallid fluorescent of the offices. It is warmer, flavored with the tang of something like metal and old varnish. The sound beyond is not rain, but a different kind of echo, distant music, perhaps, or the slow friction of something massive moving. He steps over the threshold with the same care he gives a written name in a ledger. For a single breath, he feels the small, precise thrill of crossing. Then the corridor behind him fades. The hum of level 4 recedes into a memory like the sound of closing doors. The temperature shifts in a way that pries at his skin. He does not look back. Outside, rain continues to fall against windows that will still remember him as a shadow. Inside, the new air presses its own geometry against his lungs and hands. He moves forward into it, the echo of the machine song angled into the shape of a step, and the office world of neat desks and polite vending machines becomes, for now, the past he has left behind as he walks into the next level.